Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening, wherever this podcast may find you. We are still rolling, yes?
Yes, we are.
Great. Hi, Justin.
Hi, how's it going?
It's pretty good. Pretty
Yeah.
good. Just chilling. Welcome to the Exhibition of Speed podcast, where I am Gavin,
And I am Justin.
and
We talk about stuff,
we talk about stuff and things, mostly cars, sometimes not.
as you'll see on Wednesday's episode.
Yeah. Or you'll hear, rather.
Yeah, see here. It's all the same. It's all senses.
Shout out to Andrew Casey last week for stopping by.
And spicing it up.
Those are some good episodes.
Those are some very good episodes.
We love that, dude.
Uh,
But yeah, how was your weekend, Justin?
busy. The company I used to work for called me up, and at the time, right before I left, they started installing camera systems in the trucks, and in order to install them, you had to get certified. And so since nobody else had been certified since I left, they basically hired me as the company to come back and install camera systems. So I've done like 5 of them. There's 3 up here in Salt Lake, and the last this weekend was down in Phoenix. So
Okay, gotcha.
flew down to Phoenix Friday night and flew back Sunday morning. So I left Salt Lake at 8 p.m. on Friday night and was back in Salt Lake at 8 a.m. Sunday morning.
Okay, gotcha.
So just real quick.
Yeah, that's really quick.
Yes, exactly. And I chose that perfectly because then I still had a full Sunday. So,
Fuck yeah, dude. Nice.
and a full Friday. I didn't waste any days, which is great.
Nice. Yeah, that's the way to do it.
It is. So, but yeah, that was my weekend, and I know that you had cars and coffee and a few other things.
Park City had kind of a last second like, hey, the weather looks good for this weekend. Let's do a cars and coffee kind of thing. We actually had a really good turnout.
Really?
There were a number of GT3s and like Mikey with his RS. Mike Denkers brought his yellow GT3, which is loud and lovely, and he just picked up a second-gen Quattro, a Coupe Quattro.
Okay.
And
Oh,
his
the-
Safari eyes, so it was like lifted and like knobby tires. Did you see his parking job?
No, I did not.
So the parking at Hugo Coffee, which is at the base of the Utah Olympic Park, it's just off of Highway 224, which is the main access road into Park City. It's right at Kimball Junction, the beginning of town kind of thing. And there are 3 different like zones, really. There might be 4 actually, but they're all separate. Like one's kind of elevated from the next one, and so there's like little rock walls in between them because
Yeah.
they're elevated. So Mike, being Mike and having finally an off-road thing, he parked it like you know, you've seen like those Jeeps and things that are at dealerships that are like hashtag Jeep things. They're like parked up like horizontally, or not horizontally, but like at a 45.
Yep,
That's what he did.
of course.
So, but props to Mike for that purchase. It's nice to see him in something that isn't just a sports car, a supercar, whatever.
Yeah.
He's deviating, so that's kind of cool. Yeah, some of like the Salt Lake guys with their supercars came up. A couple 720S's came.
Nice.
They were kind of revving like really, really loud. So
Yeah.
that was kind of shitty. Someone did a burnout.
I saw
actually.
your post.
Yeah. Some people think he wasn't with the Park City Car Club or there to see cars and coffee or whatever. He's just an asshole.
Well, he's that regardless.
He's definitely an asshole regardless. If I see that truck again, we're gonna have a conversation. Absolutely. But yeah, other than that, it was actually a really nice, like a lovely little Sunday cars and coffee. And when I did a grand total of 3 things on Sunday.
That was one of them.
That was it. So yeah, I got up to Park City, and it was at 10 o'clock. By the way, we moved it an hour later, so there's a little bit of sleep in time, which was nice.
Yeah.
Got to relax. And then I went with some friends to see Ford versus Ferrari.
Which I know we're going to talk about on Wednesday.
Or
actually, no,
we're not.
We're
No.
going to talk about that today.
Yeah, we're gonna talk about that today.
Yep.
And I also had shabu shabu before that, so like we killed a couple hours at shabu shabu, which is awesome. Highly recommend.
Okay.
But yeah, and then saw Ford versus Ferrari, and I didn't time how long the movie was, but it was actually kind of lengthy.
I think it's
'Cause-
it's approaching 2 hours, I think.
Oh, at least because I mean, granted there are previews, but we got there at 3, and I didn't get home until 7.
I'm now looking this up.
Yeah, you should look. I think it's at least 2 hours.
Let's see, movie
Or around
length.
2 hours.
Of course. Right when I pull it up, nothing's telling me. Nope. Actually, no, yeah. Holy crap. 2.5.
That
Yeah,
makes
there you
sense.
go.
That feels
I
right.
had to do some math really quick. That was hard.
Fast maths.
Yeah. But yeah, 152 minutes.
Damn. Yeah. Yes. That's 2.5 hours. Yeah. It was great though. There are, for the crazy nerds out there that, you know, if they know the exact track layout, or if they know what Le Mans back in 1966 looks like, or
I've seen a couple of the comments that are like, yeah, but they didn't use this track correctly. And it's like, well, they had to use something, and Le Mans doesn't exist in the fashion that it did.
No, it's super modernized now. The nice thing is Willow Springs hasn't fucking changed.
Exactly.
So they could shoot it there. Daytona, they shot at a different track. They didn't shoot it at the Daytona, which is fine. I mean, for people that, like, fuck, I didn't know that even.
Yeah.
And, like, we're both, like, car guys.
Yeah. Well, I think it's just something you wouldn't really know unless there was reason for it, even as a car guy.
Yeah. Yeah, if you were super into, like, that era of racing and stuff. And I'm not even, like, a big Shelby guy or a big, like, vintage Ford or whatever guy.
Yeah.
But I was fairly entertained. A few of the things that... Well, the thing about the door, they had the first lap of Le Mans in there.
Oh, really?
Yeah. Yeah, shout out to Mike at the Shelby Museum
Who told us
in Vegas, who is our unofficial tour guide. But yeah, they showed the first lap of Le Mans with Ken Miles driving.
Yep.
And it's like, he pulls into the pit lane. I can't close the fucking door. They're like, what? I can't close the fucking door. And like someone comes up with a fucking hammer, just smashes it shut, and he takes off.
Oh, that's great.
So yeah. Spoiler alert: Ford wins.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
It's almost like history dictated that.
Huh. Weird.
Huh.
But yeah, fantastic film. I would say that's a great film for car guys. It's also, I would think, a really great film for people that aren't necessarily into cars. I feel like it's dynamic and interesting enough outside of cars that the masses would find it interesting.
Yeah.
What I also did see is their opening weekend, they made $31 million
Nice.
nationally, and they made like another $20 million abroad.
Yeah.
And then there was a movie that Elizabeth Banks just directed. It was like a revamp of something. It's not Clueless. I don't know. Some like kind of chick flicky, whatever, poppy kind of film. And it just flopped at $8 million.
Ooh.
Yeah. So it's really nice to see, a car film be represented so well. And I mean, I could see that film going to the Oscars. I'm not saying it's going to win, but I can definitely see
at
it
least get nominated
as a contender. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, you see Christian Bale as Ken Miles is a Brit.
Yeah.
He actually has kind of a like a Cockney accent.
Yeah.
Or like a British countryside accent, which was really interesting and funny.
Dude, see Christian Bale.
Yeah, like a clean-shaven Christian Bale, and he's just talking, speaking very Englishly, Britishly.
Yep.
But 10 out of 10 would recommend. I got to see it at Jordan Landing,
Yeah.
which was a fantastic experience. I was like in the middle, like the dead center of the theater. So like the screen was still big. I was in the center of the, horizontally speaking,
Yeah.
in these crazy, huge, comfy, power retracting, reclinable seats, and it was just the absolute tits in terms of viewing experience. So, that's what I would recommend if people are looking for something to do on the weekend in the coming weeks.
Yeah.
But, absolutely would recommend to all people. I even recommended it to one of my coworkers' son, who is like 8 or 9 or whatever. Is like, yeah, he should go see it. I think he would like it.
Oh, yeah.
So, yeah.
Nice.
And then I came home and I fucking conked out at like 10 p.m., which like never happens. Yeah.
Yeah. No, it's a big world. But actually, so, speaking of Ford.
Oh, yeah. They just released something. Was it today that they actually released it?
I think it was yesterday. It was over the weekend. I know that much.
Yeah. So there has been rumor, and not just a rumor. There was the impending release of a Ford crossover electric thing that had the name Mustang in it somewhere. Interesting.
Okay.
Speaking of the Mustang. Mustang Mach-E, which is what it's called. I just pulled up. I just saw a notification that I was tagged in a comment. I decided to bring it up. So, Abraham Mendoza on Motor United posted the photos of a red Mach-E, initially shared by Johnny Lieberman.
Yeah.
And Abraham said, "Man, this isn't just an ugly Mustang; it's simply an ugly car." People are making comments. I kind of chimed in and said, it still looks better than the Urus. And Connor Rowe chimed in. Trent Bray from Cam Automac chimed in. Joe Lackey, Tyler Tarbox chimed in. Where is this comment, though? Oh, Tyler Tarbox commented and said, "Personally, I think it looks great, but since it has a Mustang badge on it, it deserves to rot in hell." I am on board with that.
Yes.
Hold on. Before you jump into it, I said if it was badged literally anything else, people would be overjoyed. Connor Rowe mentioned, I think it's cooler, or it's cool that other companies are stepping up to the plate against Tesla, because fuck Elon Musk, but this is not the way to go about it. And someone replied to me and said, I wouldn't go that far. People would be slightly less disgusted even without the Mustang badge. Still screams Tesla clone. I don't see
the
Tesla-ness in it at all, really.
Okay, so you look at it compared to the currently out Model X SUV, because technically
the closer thing I would put it up against would be the Model Y.
Yes, true.
Because the Model Y is basically a taller Model 3.
Yeah.
Where the Model X is an SUV-ified Model S. Mm-hmm. I mean, possibly in concept, like, not even really in concept, because in concept or in execution, this really does have a Mustang roofline with the rear end kind of slightly extending for a little spoiler at the top of the roof, but it's still a hatchback.
See, and here's the thing, pulling up a picture of the Model Y so I could just get a reference real quick. The one thing they did significantly better with the Mustang Mach-E is just actual design in general, proportionally.
Well, the Model Y and all of the all of the Tesla, I believe all of the Teslas, with the exception of the Model S, have. And I'm sure they're great to drive because of this, but they have so much greenhouse.
Yes.
From the outside, it looks hideous and horrendous. But from the inside, and I actually drove the Model 3 back in 2018.
Yep.
We did film some of it, but you weren't there for that, and so I didn't want to really release it.
Yeah.
There was a lot of greenhouse, and it felt nice to drive. There's an element, and I think part of the reason why 90s cars are also kind of coming back in like late 80s and early 90s is because those pillars were so thin back then.
Yep.
That it gave a better feeling of openness and airiness
visibility.
And visibility and a nicer greenhouse.
Yeah.
And Teslas have been doing that recently.
They have been. Yep.
This doesn't look like a tomb, like, the upper half of the car is a tumor.
Yes.
This actually still has a cohesive design that feels like a car.
Yeah, so let me give you just a brief overview of what it is. So it's a 2021 model year, so it won't be out for another year and a half-ish.
Probably the third, or it's probably fourth quarter of 2020.
Yep.
At the earliest.
And right now, as of right now, you can actually go out online and configure it. However, there will be a Mustang Mach-E GT model that is not really, it's been teased but not actually released yet. So as it sits, it's a two-row SUV, effectively think roughly Escape size but with a sloping roofline.
So it's basically a Ford X6.
Kind of, yep.
Yeah.
And it comes in all-wheel drive or rear-wheel drive, just like a Tesla.
Right.
And it comes in a standard or extended battery range. You got a choice of 75 or a 98 kilowatt battery. Effectively,
The bigger one can go 300 miles, doesn't it?
yep, 300. So, and it actually, the nice thing is they actually gave it so you can compare the rear-wheel drive and the all-wheel drive too. So like a standard rear-wheel drive will do 230, but the all-wheel drive takes away 20 miles of range because of weight, and driving two of the wheels.
And driving loss, yeah.
Yeah.
Power loss.
But it adds a second to or it removes a second from the 0 to 60. So
Because it's all-wheel drive.
if you go the cheapest you can get, you're actually in a 6-second 0 to 60 range.
Which is not slow for
By-
something of that size.
But for electric vehicle standards, it quote unquote is. We're used to being spoiled.
But that's also because the electric vehicles of that size have been Teslas that cost 120 grand.
Exactly. Whereas this is starting out at 50.
Really? I don't know anything about the pricing on this.
So estimated MSRP quote unquote is
For base?
is 50,600.
That doesn't seem terrible.
No, it really doesn't.
I think that would probably be pretty fair considering it's Ford's first real attempt at an electric vehicle.
Oh yeah, they're going to be losing money out the ass for a while.
Yeah.
So, and then same thing goes with the extended battery. The 0 to 60 doesn't change with that. All-wheel drive and rear-wheel drive, it's still the difference with 6 seconds versus 5 seconds on the all-wheel drive versus rear-wheel drive, and you still lose, about that 20 miles of range.
Sure.
But you're also looking at 255 horsepower versus 332 if you get the large batteries, because they'll have bigger motors associated.
Well, and Lieberman posted today as well. I mean, he's posted a number of times about this, but he posted something today about, so he posted a photo saying this is the Ford Mustang Mach-E GT. It's got 2 big traction motors, one on the front axle and one on the rear. When I went to Ford HQ to look at the Mach-E, I didn't get to see the GT version, but I was told about the Shield grille. Have you seen this? I don't want to move my phone because the charger connection is
Interesting. Okay.
Yeah, but it has more of a grill like a conventional grill texture, but it's kind of this shiny, silvery color. And then he said, I'll give it up to Ford's design team here. Looks much better than I imagined. Also, 459 horsepower and 612 pound-feet of torque.
And an estimated, on that one, on the GT upcoming, an estimated 0 to 60 of 3 seconds. So that more...
Which is real quick.
Yeah, which is pretty brisk. Just for the fun of it now, just to go through, because I'm going to go through this and get, like, the base features. Sure. I'm going to build, like, the cheapest one really quick right here. So, like, rental spec. Oh, we're really not giving that many details. Apparently, you can build one, but, like... There's not that many details. What I'm looking for is I'm trying to see like what standard features it has and whatnot. I know for a fact it does have a 15.5-inch center screen.
It does have the iPad.
It does have a very similar...
But you also get a gauge in front of the wheel, though.
You do.
So it hasn't gone full Tesla.
It hasn't gone full Model 3. Model S still has the gauge cluster.
In front of the wheel?
Yeah, oh, yeah.
Oh, fuck, you're right. I forgot about that.
Sorry, everybody. Gavin just farted and it was real bad. Okay. So, the interesting thing, though, is, which I actually like this, in the middle of that screen, they integrated buttons. Sorry,
in the iPad?
At the bottom middle of the screen, they integrated physical buttons,
which is fantastic.
So they still have a rotary volume knob.
Yes.
And center of that presumably power.
Yeah.
However. Zoom in right here. I don't believe any of those. Well, I don't believe the climate things that are right around that are physical, which is kind of sad.
They're probably haptic.
Yeah, they probably are.
They're probably not in the infotainment. They're not like.
Yeah, because effectively all it is it's just a dial. Think like a Nest Home thermostat. It's literally like that. It has a screen in the middle of it too, and then everything. It's just all screen all around it and everything. But at least it gives it one physical feature in the middle of the screen that you can interact with, which I'm going to presume changes functions. It'd be a lost opportunity if it didn't.
Yeah.
So, and then it has the standard rotary Ford shifter that they've been putting in most of them.
Like in the Fusion. And, yeah.
And then one of the other interesting things to note, I'm sure it's going to come with Bluetooth. I know it was said to be available with Bang & Olufsen audio system, so I'm sure it'll have all the decent features
of CarPlay, Android Auto.
Yeah, all the normal things we'd be used to. The gauge cluster in the center that Gavin mentioned in front of the driver is a 10.1 inch wide, very wide.
Not that tall though.
Nope, it's probably only 2 inches tall, but most of that's in width.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
The one interesting thing to note, though, is the interior looks fairly Ford, which it doesn't look bad. It looks, similar. Think of like the newer Tauruses, which are fairly decent interiors. Like, it doesn't look terrible. It doesn't look like...
It looks like a Ford.
Yeah, it doesn't look like horrendous plastics of old, which is good.
Which
I would assume that they wouldn't be.
Yeah.
Here's the weird thing, though. They went with no door handles. There are no door handles.
Okay, so how do you get in?
So it has...
Wait, on the inside or outside?
On the outside.
Okay.
So it has the typical Ford 5-digit, you can select your code.
How long have they been using that
since the late 90s.
Yeah.
So they still have that.
Jesus.
Which actually, a nice feature of that, and anybody with a smart key access system will know this. You can't lock the key in the vehicle because it will bing and bong and won't let you lock the vehicle because it knows the key's inside.
Gotcha.
With the Fords, you can. Because you can leave the key in and you punch in that code and it overrides the general lock-unlock. And so you can sit there, and if you are going to be going swimming or something, the nice thing is you can leave everything in the car, beep, 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 and it will lock still with the key in the vehicle.
Right.
So you don't need to try to
you
keep
can
track of
easily
something.
get into it because you have a code.
Yep, exactly. That's the one thing that's still really kept it around. Is it is convenient if you have it.
That's true.
Anyways, so just below that, and everybody that's seen a Ford knows where that sits, right on the B pillar. Just below that, on each door, there's a little button. It's a little electronic button. You push that, and it pops the door open 4 inches.
So you mean something that will inevitably fail?
Yes. Now, worse than this, they've already started doing. They're already using this app right now with their current vehicles. They have I think it's called Ford Connect. They have a Connect app that can connect to your vehicle.
Is it like Turo Go?
No. No, it's,
it's
better than that.
It actually works.
It actually works. So with that, you can, because everything's connected these days, you can connect your car, start it, preheat it, all that kind of stuff. That already works on all the modern Fords. What it'll do with this one as well is basically when you approach the door, it'll automatically open the door. Now, they're not electronic doors, so they just pop open. They don't actually open all the way.
Right.
So what they did...
Which is smart, because you never know how wide of an ingress or egress you will have.
Exactly. And also, like, an electronic door popper, a couple $100 to replace. A mechanism that opens and closes a 50-pound door, a lot more.
Yikes. Yeah.
So anyways, though, whether you push the button or you walk up to it, it'll pop it open 4 inches. But there's still no grab area. So they did integrate a little tiny winglet that comes out just below the B pillar on the front doors.
Okay.
That you can grab and pull, which is right next to that button. So it makes sense. On the rear doors, there's not that, though. So like what you have to do is you push the button to pop it open, then you have to like reach your hand in the slit and kind of open it. It does pop open 4 inches, like I said, so it's not like you're trying to shove your hand in a tight hole or anything. But
Giggity,
yes. I still yet to be seen how that would actually function.
I'm curious to see what this is going to be like.
Yeah, it'll be interesting. I mean, other than that, a lot of the stuff on the interior actually looks very Fusion related, honestly. A lot of the switchgear and stuff that I'm seeing scroll through this little videoette right now. And then I believe...
Well, I rented a Fusion hybrid when I just was in Michigan this July.
Yeah.
I didn't hate it. It was a perfectly fine mode of transportation. It was
honestly, that's my opinion of the Fusions. They've honestly been great. They're a great mode of transportation.
I mean, I haven't had any experience with the first gen. You just did.
The first gens are still pretty good.
Okay.
But even the modern gens are actually very good.
They're not bad.
Yeah. Surprisingly quiet for just a standard run-of-the-mill car. Very fairly insulated, fairly solid feeling too.
Yeah.
Anyways,
do you want one of these?
Yes. Boom. So,
Glass table things.
other key elements to note on the exterior, as Gavin mentioned, it's got that swooping roofline, X6-esque, quote unquote.
I mean, the car. I mean, it's probably either an X4 or X6. It's probably closer to X4 size.
Yeah.
An X6 would be a huge
So
vehicle.
they did say, I did see a comparison between this and a Porsche. What's the small SUV?
Macan.
As far as just sheer size,
Okay, so yeah, it's Macan size.
it's the actual boot space is a little bit less. It is a little bit less space than a Macan
Well, because of batteries and motors
in the
right?
rear, but
It's still the skateboard setup, though, right?
yep.
With the batteries.
And then with this, it basically makes it equal with the front,
Okay.
The front-
Oh yeah.
because it's got, and apparently the front is actually, you can hose it down. It's got a drain plug in the bottom.
Oh no way.
Yeah, so like if you get shit in there and get it all wet, you can just hose it down, pull the drain plug, and drain it out. That's actually
As for when you are leaving the cars and coffee and you hit and kill all the people and you have blood inside your front.
yeah,
you
it's
just
a
hose it
drain
off.
hole. Yeah, exactly. It's perfect. They thought of everything.
I wonder how many I wonder if this is. I don't think Ford is probably necessarily aware of the memes of their reputation. You think they are?
I'm sure they
Do you think
are.
this is an effort to combat that at all?
No, I don't think it is. I effectively went with the couple videos I watched. They already had an EV platform that they had engineered. They were planning on putting into use, and this is just their first effort at it.
They're like, we've been selling Mustangs for 60 years or whatever.
Yeah, we should sell this
years?
as a Mustang. 55-ish years
Yeah.
or whatever. Yep. We should just engineer this as a Mustang. Anyways, so another weird thing though, which it will be coming up here in just a moment. If you look at the trunk area that's about to come up here in just a second, it'll show it popped, and it's only part of the rear.
Yeah, so for those listening at home, if you are looking at a photo of the Mustang Mach-E, if you go halfway up, not the angled side, but just the side that's straight up and down, it's halfway up there is where the kind of the trunk cutoff is, and then everything above that opens.
Yeah, so it's not like a full-size hatch.
No,
It kind of makes it a little odd.
it's like a half. It's almost like a half hatch, almost.
Yeah,
It
so,
basically provides a wall, on the back half or the back side of the trunk to kind of contain things, I guess.
yeah, it's kind of like in between. You think of like a
It's like a really big bumper on the back.
Yeah, a full-size rakish hatch like an RS7 versus like a regular trunk. It's halfway in between those two.
Yeah.
It kind of opens up like half of that rear slopey area, but not the whole thing like most of the...
I almost would have preferred it if they had the splitting kind, on the older Volvos or
Yeah.
something like that. That's something that had almost like a tailgate, I guess.
Yeah.
That would have felt more American to me.
Yeah,
if they had done that.
exactly. Because then they could have made it work better. But it is what it is. But anyways, you can go look up a lot more stuff about this yourself. The main reason we wanted to bring this up is that this is a very hot button issue right now.
Well, yeah, the sheer timing of our podcast recording is actually kind of working out for us.
Yeah, I know, for once. This has got many people hot and bothered.
Yeah, and I mean, if you've listened this far, you've literally just heard my opinion on a forum about this. I'm not against it in terms of the actual... If you look at the car itself in a vacuum, in its own bubble, I'm sure it's going to be great. It'll drive like an electric car, meaning, the steering is going to be super electric and it's going to be quick in a straight line. I don't know how the brakes are going to be. Handling is going to be okay. How much does it weigh? 4,500 pounds probably? If it's a Macan size
Yeah.
and electric, I would imagine around 4,500.
I'm sure.
I can't imagine it'll be any less. I'd be kind of surprised if it was less.
Yeah.
It's definitely not sub 4,000 pounds, though.
It does claim that it has 50-50 weight distribution.
Which is, I mean, duh.
Not surprising.
Duh, because you have this, the mass, the biggest mass that you have in an electric car is the batteries. And if it's like a skateboard that's in the floor, like spread out through the entire car, then yeah, duh.
And it also claims,
And if it has the same motor in the front and the rear,
Yep.
then duh.
Yeah, and even on board of that, it right here, well, it says it'll be the best handling SUV they offer, and it says
Better handling than their Edge ST?
yeah, apparently. And then it also says it will be faster off the line than a Macan Turbo.
Well, okay.
I know, it's funny little.
No fucking shit.
I know it's an electric car. It's just funny. Anyways, but so
Like, American companies are honestly like the biggest, like,
we're better than the Germans.
well, yeah, they always feel like they have the most amount to prove. Like when the
Yeah.
Pontiac Solstice came out, they're like, we're faster than a fucking Boxster or whatever. It's like, yeah, the Boxster doesn't have any fucking torque. That's not what it's for.
Yeah.
Or like when this, the C8, came out with its fucking, square-shaped steering wheels. Like, yeah, this is fucking Top Gun, fucking fighter jet, fucking whatever. Fuck yeah, America. Like, this is going to be the same fucking shit.
Yeah, so here's the main problem. Pretty much the main problem that everybody has is the fact that it wears a Mustang badge. We don't have a problem with the fact that it exists. In fact,
I'm not
great.
even... Honestly, it looks better than the Urus. It looks loads better than the Urus, in my opinion.
Yeah, and I don't hate the Urus, but I also don't love it. But I would agree it does look better.
From a styling perspective, it looks better. Obviously, the Urus would walk it in basically every other
every department,
every regard, but that's also a $250,000 car. Where this, you said, was going to start at around 50.
50,600 is what the website currently says.
Right.
And it kind of brings this dilemma because we've seen this before with the Blazer being brought back. Instead of a body-on-frame SUV like it was, it's now...
It's also fucking hideous.
It's a hideous crossover.
Yeah.
And then
Which is funny because the Traverse doesn't even look that bad nowadays.
Yeah, it's gotten better. It's gotten much better with age.
Yeah.
And then we even had the Dart, several years ago with the Fiat merger that is a Fiat.
That thing's just horrendous now, isn't it?
It is. So anyways, we've had this happen before. And here's the problem. I was explaining this to Gavin earlier. We don't have a problem the car exists, but I get why manufacturers do this. Because to me and Gavin, it's a problem. To a lot of red-blooded Americans, it's a problem.
Right.
But to the average soccer mom that's going to use it to go to and from, soccer meets?
They're probably thrilled that it has a Mustang badge on it.
Yeah.
It's their way of saying, yes, I have a Mustang, but I also have a family.
Exactly.
And I can make it work with my life.
It's kind of like, because as terrible as it is to quote-unquote deface the name, they're both, A, saving a ton of money on not having to rebadge, rebrand, and retrademark. On top of that, they're introducing a new customer base that the Mustang brand, quote-unquote, never had and never would have had.
What makes me sad, most of all, is that they're going in this direction. Like, sure, if you made the Edge ST and the Explorer ST and came out with this Mustang Mach-E.
Yeah.
But you didn't just kill off your Fiesta ST, your Focus RS, and your Focus ST. If you kept all of those and just only added these other things to it, I would be completely fine with it. I would be super on board.
But we look at what's been happening.
But they've been killing off their performance department in exchange for these crossovers and SUVs, and it just seems like fucking lunacy to me. I don't know. I'm a guy that also loves, handling dynamics and feedback and steering feel. Those are things that doesn't necessarily sell to the mass market. That's not going to sell you millions of cars. They are still making their GT, though. They're on their second round of applicants, aren't they? Or they've already gone through them. So, yeah, it's weird. There's this, divide where it's like, yes, you don't make your small hatch, your fun hatches, and you add this weird Mustang crossover EV thing, but then you're also selling your supercar that costs $400,000.
Yeah.
So it's a weird diatribe here.
So yeah, I mean, for those that aren't aware, Ford, among Chevrolet and actually Nissan, are getting rid of their smallest cars and focusing solely.
Is Nissan getting rid of the Sentra and stuff? And the Note?
I've got the list right here. And also Volkswagen's getting rid of the Touareg, which is SUV, and the Beetle this year.
Well, the Beetle just didn't sell.
It just didn't sell. Exactly.
That's kind of self-explanatory.
So Nissan's getting rid of the Juke.
That's fine.
That's fine.
Nissan doesn't make a single fucking compelling thing in their entire lineup. And yes, I am including the 370Z and the GTR.
I know. The GTR was very compelling when it came out. It's been 10 years.
It's been 10 years, and same thing. I mean, the GTR has at least evolved a little bit. The 370Z hasn't.
And even the Juke hasn't much in about that same time span.
Yeah.
Anyways, but...
Fuck it, yeah, it has been 10 years since the Juke came out. I keep on forgetting about that.
Well, for good reason. So we're referencing Carpocalypse, which is, a lot of these manufacturers getting rid of their smaller vehicles and focusing on the SUV craze. So Ford's getting rid of the Taurus, they're getting rid of the Focus, and I believe the Fiesta. Excuse me. And the Fusion's not on this list, but I think since it's probably their best selling of their cars.
I was under the impression that the only car that they were keeping was going to be the Mustang.
And I think that's the...
I think they are getting rid of the
I think
Fusion.
that's the end goal. This is just a list of cars that are done at the end of this year.
Oh, okay, gotcha.
End of this model year.
Gotcha.
And so I'm sure that the Fusion they might drag out for a year just because it's better selling than the rest.
Right.
Mainly for fleet sales and stuff like that.
Rental companies.
And for, cops. They've been replacing with cop cars.
With Fusions?
The whole of Salt Lake City just bought 200 of them.
Wow. Mm-hmm. That's news to me.
Yeah, but they just barely happened.
Okay.
So with all that happening, compounded, as Gavin said, with this Mustang now, it's kind of sad. Now, here's the cherry on top, I think. So we're getting rid of all these cars. Chevy's doing the same thing with the Volt, the Impala, and a bunch of the other models. And so is even Cadillac's getting rid of the XT6, as well
Which
as
is fine.
As well as the XTS and the CT6 and the ATS. There's a
Cadillac
lot.
doesn't really make anything that's even compelling to me either.
Yeah, so a lot of these manufacturers, not just American, because there's also Nissan and Toyota and a few others on this list, are getting rid of some of their smaller offerings, mainly to focus on SUV sales.
Yep.
And it's kind of this sad thing that we live in right now. Now, the good news is this is only mostly just in the American market.
Right.
Thank God. Because that means those manufacturers are still going to have platforms similar to these in production over the rest of the world.
Yeah.
So if, pray to God, this SUV craze eventually dies the fuck down to the point where, people want to buy a Fiesta again. Oh, we make one of those in Europe. Oh, we don't want to pay to retool the whole thing. Oh, we'll just bring the European model over.
It's just so weird because the Fiesta, just the base car, when that came back, it was that, and when the S550 Mustang came out, those were kind of the beginning of the One Ford program.
Yep.
Which is everything that they were selling in Europe, we were getting here.
Uh-huh.
And that was a direction that they were going in, and now... Yeah, it's just weird that they've gone back to that so quickly. That's been 7 years? Mm-hmm. Really, more or less?
Yep. And obviously they'll still keep that with what SUVs they sell.
What a fucking timeline that we're living in right now.
So
because
weird.
now, but we have the RS6 Avant that's coming over here too.
I know, I don't get it.
On a completely unrelated note.
But yeah, it's the car scene right now. We're obviously talking outside of the enthusiast realm is so weird.
Yeah.
Because, you just don't know what in the hell's going on. Most of the manufacturers are getting rid of all the small cars. Oh, the Fiat 500 is another one that's gone this year.
Yeah, you're right. Mm-hmm. Which is unfortunate.
It is very unfortunate. So you're losing all of these small offerings. And ironically, I can't help but think, aren't we pushing for emissions and all this stuff? And granted, the EV at the car level solves that. But as far as miles per gallon and all this other stuff, I'm sorry, SUVs don't get as good of miles per gallon as a little Fiesta.
No.
They don't. I mean, it's just, their SUVs are getting better mileage than they ever have. But they're still not great. But they're still not comparable.
No.
So hang on, I thought we were pushing for all this. And anyways, it's just interesting to look at this and, look at how they're going towards a very specific niche that has just grown out of control.
I mean, imagine what you could do in range or just overall efficiency if you had electric motors in a Fiesta or a Focus.
Oh my gosh.
Be great.
Yeah.
Imagine if you had high performance electric motors in a tiny little Fiesta. That would rip so fucking hard.
And you'd have a frunk. And who doesn't want a frunk?
Yeah, you're actually absolutely right.
Especially in a small car like that.
Yeah. If Ford could somehow package that.
Yeah, I mean, luckily with how little that car weighs as far as the platform goes.
Yeah.
Like, you wouldn't need a huge ass battery. You wouldn't need huge ass motors.
No.
You could make it pretty compact. And not to mention, you can make it all-wheel drive really easily.
You really could.
Oh.
Imagine like a 300 horsepower all-wheel drive electric Fiesta. That would be the fucking ticket right there.
Ford, you heard it here first.
I'm sure they might have even heard it in their offices, years ago. But
I'm sure. So anyways, that's the weird lay of the land right now. And like, we would be interested in hearing your opinions because everybody's opinions is pretty muddled on this.
Yeah. If you have an opinion, feel free to write into us, mailbag.eos@gmail.com. Or if you know us personally on Facebook, hit us up. Or if you are, if you follow us on Instagram or whatever, feel free to slide in our DMs. But yeah, it's interesting. This timeline that we're living in where we've been lusting after the RS6 Avant for decades.
And now we're getting it.
But at the same time, we're losing our fun little performance cars, and we also have an EV SUV crossover thing that wears a Mustang badge. So, yeah.
What a weird day to be alive.
It's interesting because, like, in the Ford versus Ferrari movie, there was so much not backlash, but resistance to have Ford get into actual motorsport, like outside of NASCAR.
Mm-hmm.
And Carroll Shelby and Ken Miles, mostly Shelby, did the fighting, but Shelby had to fight tooth and nail to get Ford into motorsport. And then they did, and then they fucking won at Le Mans.
Yeah.
They beat Ferrari.
They beat the golden goose.
They wiped the floor with the golden goose.
Yeah. 4-1.
Yeah, exactly. No, Ford had a 1-2-3 finish.
Exactly.
Iconically. So, I don't know. It's just weird to see this happening as, just over 50 years ago, we had to fight to have the opposite happen. I don't know. It's just something that's kind of on my mind right now. But where are we at time-wise?
We're at time.
We're at time? Cool. We'll tune in tomorrow where I'm going to talk about some watch things and Justin talks about work. But until then, I've been Gavin.
I've been Justin.
And this has been the Exhibition of Speed podcast. Goodbye.
Bye.